Hi guys, welcome to another episode of understanding how the this keyword works with the three methods. Um, in our last episode, we talked about call and apply. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about how the bind method works. Unlike the call and apply methods, the bind method does not immediately invoke the function or the method that is being bound to. It creates a new, instead, it creates a new function. So this permanently bounds to the value you specify. This is helpful when you want to pass a function around, but want to ensure it always uses a specific this without necessarily calling the function. So we already have an object, a person object that has a property of name and the greet method. So what we are going to do here is we're going to change the call to bind, right? So when we do this, um, we can already see what happens, right? Because if you look at the console here, the greet method is not called when I refreshed the page. Let me try and refresh the page again. Yeah, so like I said initially, when you bound the bind method to maybe a method in an object, it doesn't invoke the function immediately, right? So what happens here? What are we going to do? How do we invoke the the function? We can do this by, let's say, um, let's create a variable. Um, let's call it call greet. What we are going to do is just copy this and put it over here, and come over here and just invoke the call greet variable. So what does this mean? What have we done here? So the bind method creates a new function called greet that always has the these keyword referring to another person here. So the another person here is the value of this, even though it was originally a method on the person object, right? So why is this useful? Why do we use bind? Why don't we just use call and apply? So bind is great for callbacks or maybe event listeners where the value of this might get lost. So by binding this ahead of time, you ensure the function will always run with the correct the this object, right? So another thing we could do here is as you can see over here in the console, when we invoke call greet, we can now see that the value of this takes the name of another person as well. A common scenario where we can showcase bind is uh, helpful when we are working with, let's say, event handlers or callbacks. Sometimes when you pass a method as an event handler, uh, the this keyword inside the method does not refer to the object you expect. So what we are going to do is we'll come over here and I'm trying to explain what I mean. So let's say you have a button variable and you have document.query selector. Sorry about that. And you have a button here, right? So we can come over here and say we don't need this anymore. we can come over here and say button dot add event listener. We can listen for the click event, and we can pass in the greet method as the callback, right? So this will refer to the button element, not person. So in this case, if you click the button, let me go back to the example.html file and comment out the click me button, right? So if we go back here, if we click the button, the this inside the greet method will refer to the button element, not the person object, right? So if you click this, you can see here that that this is returning a pointer event, which is the button element, right? So how do we fix this? So um, this is where we can use bind to change the behavior of the this. So instead of attributing the this value to the button, we can come over here and say no, we want the this value to be the person object, right? So when we do this, when we try to click the button now, the this inside grid correctly refers to the person object, and it outputs, let's take a wild guess. Of course, it's going to output Alice, right? So yeah. So as you can see here, we have my name is Alice, right? We're not passing an age variable or parameter, so let's take this off. We don't need that, right? So as you can see, bind comes in handy when you want to change the default value of this to some other object. In this case, we changed the this value from the button element to the person object. So let me come again, like a summary of all the methods. So the call method invokes a function with these explicitly set to a specified object, and arguments are passed individually, right? For the apply method is similar to the call method, but arguments are passed as an array, like we said in the previous episode. And now for the bind method creates a new function with the this value permanently set to the specified object, in this case the person object here. The function is not invoked immediately by default, and can be passed or can be used later on when we want to call the function, right? So these methods allow you to take control of the this value, which can be especially important in maybe event driven or object oriented JavaScript code. So if you master the call, apply, and the bind methods, you gain more flexibility in your code, ensuring that this value behaves exactly how you want it to in any given context or use case that you're working with. So yeah, so that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching, and please do subscribe. Bye.